Hi. If it looks like I just got out of the bathtub and I'm in my jammies, you'd be right. I like to use Epsom salts baths, which I think are great for trauma because they allow you to float in the water, soak in some warmth, and pick up some aromas of maybe lavender, and it's just very soothing. So I did that, and I'll tell you why. I have always been on a quest to study the various things available to trauma survivors that will address some of their body or physiology things that might be there because of trauma. So, one of the things I stumbled upon was called the Safe and Sound Protocol, or SSP. It is a program, a protocol basically, put out by the Integrated Learning Systems, and it was in conjunction with the Stress and Trauma Research Institute in Indiana. It was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges, who does great work in the polyvagal theory. And the goal of it, I'm not really sure what the goal was initially, but they developed it for things like sound sensitivity or sensory integration difficulties. They use it in children for a variety of things. And at the top of their list of what it's used for is trauma. So I was encouraged by someone at the Kinsey Institute to try it. So in order to try it without signing up to find a remote therapist or going to see a therapist, which is kind of hard to do, there's not very many people that do it. I, as a physician, had to take a 5-hour course. So I did. It was easy. It was very light on science. It didn't really explain a lot of what the protocol was about. But the idea was that it was a listening program that you use on an app on your phone. It's 5 hours total, 1 hour a day for 5 days. That's originally how it was designed. Over time, they've said for trauma survivors to stretch it out a little bit, or if you're doing remote therapy with someone, you would do maybe 30 minutes at a time and spend the rest of the time processing what happened in this listening program. So the idea was to use listening or sound and to manipulate the sound in ways that will strengthen your vagus nerve, therefore allowing for better resilience. They talked about improving your gastrointestinal function, which is an issue for me. And of course, it was to be used for sound sensitivity. A lot of trauma survivors have sound sensitivity, and I'm one of them. I have a very severe reaction to bass or low sounds. When I hear someone driving by in a car and they have their bass turned up too much, I want to kill them. I don't even think. I'm just like, I want to get a gun and I want to shoot them. So I thought, well, that's a bad thing to have. So I thought this might be a good thing for me to try. And they do say, try it. If you're a therapist or if you're someone who's a provider doing this, they say, yeah, try it yourself. They never say try it with someone. They don't say, anything other than just give it a whirl. And so I decided I would try it. And I decided I would try it exactly as it was intended, which was 1 hour sessions for 5 days. Now, a little bit of a disclosure, I did listen to it for more than 1 hour a day because there are programs for children and programs for adults, and I wanted to compare the child experience with the adult experience. And what it is they play songs similar to how you hear at a bar or a restaurant, just very upbeat or bluesy songs or maybe some country songs, usually with vocalists, so they're singing something, and instrumental. And for everyone's experience is different, and I'll tell you my experience just because it's all I know. The first 2 hours I thought were kind of easy. The first hour, it felt like I was listening to an AM radio. I should tell you what they do is once you are certified in doing this, you get access to an app. So you put the app on your phone, and it allows you to set your volume and your time for how much time you're going to listen to. And then you're to buy over the ear headphones like these that fit over your ears. And set the left to the left and the right to the right and listen. So because I was doing it for research purposes, I really, really wanted to push it and listen, even if it was hard. I knew it would be kind of hard, even though I'm very well on my way to healing. So anyway, the first 2 days were easy. I felt like it was, I don't know, missing something. Like they had taken out the bass notes and maybe taken out some high notes, and it just sounded like a bad radio connection. It was okay. I thought some of the songs were kind of fun. I did the children's version. They do mostly Disney songs, songs that maybe kids would relate to or recognize from Disney movies. But both were similar in my experience. Second day was similar, although I did find with the adult hour to have a little more of a connection to the music, especially in the adult program. Not as much in the child program, but in the adult program, I thought, yeah, this music seems really deep and kind of safe and comfortable. So that was my first 2 days. I later found out that a lot of people don't even do very well in the first 2 days at all. But because of my personal response and physiological response to trauma, those first 2 days were easy for me. But I wouldn't expect that for everyone by any stretch. The third day was different. Again, a lot of the same songs, not in the same order, but a lot of the same songs. I felt irritated by the songs, just kind of like I just wasn't happy. I wasn't really sure why or what it was, but I just felt irritated, and I found myself trying to figure out what have they done, what have they taken out, what have they put in, what have they manipulated these sounds to be, and that irritation lasted the whole day. I made some really bad decisions. I canceled some things because I was angry, and I was angry around people, and I just didn't. I wasn't myself. I was just more irritable and crabby. The fourth day was really, really bad. That was the start of what I call my hell. Again, I didn't have anyone to do this with, so I was really trying to struggle through, knowing it would be hard, but also knowing that I was in a good position to do things like yoga or an Epsom salts bath or playing with my dog or walking around, those kinds of things to just ease some of the discomfort. But it was horrible. It seemed as though they were splitting the vocalist and the instrumental, and they would move them around. It's like when you listen to something, you kind of know, okay, well, this is where the vocalist is and this is where the instrumentalist is, and they stay the same. Maybe they don't. I mean, sometimes you hear a little bit of difference in both ears, but it sort of matches and it seems comfortable. This was not comfortable at all. I was terrified. The singer would disappear way in the background, and you would think, okay, but then it would just zip right back up, and it felt like they were just like inside your brain. It was horrible. And then they would zip out again, and then they would be all on one side, and I felt assaulted. I felt like I was attacked by these singers in ways I seemed kind of irrational, but that was how it felt. I just, there were times where I was just incredulous that this could be so horrible. Because it was songs, the same exact songs I've been listening to, but it was manipulated in such a way that my experience of listening to them was vastly different. And the child songs were much the same way. There were times where I thought, oh, these songs are so inappropriate for children. I'll talk a little more about that later. Okay, so the fifth day. Again, you go into it thinking this day will be reparative, everything will be fine, and you'll feel good about the whole thing. That never happened. On the fifth day, it was horrible. Within 5 minutes, I was sobbing, and I didn't really know why. Part of it was because I believe they split the instrumental and then the vocalist. So the vocalist was doing their own thing and the instrumental was doing their own thing. And the vocalist, they kept dropping consonants. It was like if you didn't really know what the song was about, the words didn't seem right. It was blurry or just, I called it too round, too fluffy. I just couldn't understand them very well. And I felt sad and depressed, like I can't understand these people. And also after the fourth day, I just started feeling broken. Just like, okay, whatever. Do whatever you want to me. I don't care. I just felt like a broken, damaged person. And there was a lot of despair that whole time. And the child version was roughly the same. I just felt despair and sadness. And so then I had finished the 5 days, and they have what's called the balance program, where you're supposed to listen and kind of practice what you've learned. And I didn't really expect it to be bad at all. And the first day of the balance program I did, and it was awful. It just intensified my sense of brokenness, of like my spirit was just torn away from me, and I no longer cared. I was despairing. The sounds, I could hear a lot of bass sounds, but instead of feeling angry, I just felt like despair and suicidal and just awful. And so I got through that, and then I did the other. There's 5 days or 5 hours of balance listening, which aren't supposed to do anything. And actually, the last balance ones didn't do much except for I just felt sad and despairing. And so I'm going to tell you what my side effects were and what has persisted after doing this. Ideally, you're supposed to not have sound sensitivity afterwards. And I had worsened sound sensitivity. It was as though I could hear every sound magnified 100 times. People would talk to me or my phone would go off and I would just cringe because the sound just hurt. I would hear trains or cars or noises of people in my apartment building, and I would just be terrified and despairing and sad, and it was not that rage that I felt, but it was more this the superpower of hearing everything, even music that I loved, music that I listened to every day with my headphones on so I can walk my dog and drive and get through life. No longer seemed right. I could hear sounds I didn't hear before, and everything felt dangerous. Music felt dangerous. Music that I loved and cared about felt wrong and dangerous. I also had ringing in my ear that started on the first day, was very loud, just in one ear. The second day it disappeared completely, and I thought, okay, this is good. Third day it came back again, and it stayed. It's a little better now. It's been 3 weeks, but I can still hear it, and there are times where it's just loud enough to be very, very annoying. And nobody can really explain to me why that happened. I've been told it's from over listening, but it happened the first day, so I'm not really sure about that. The sound sensitivity is not so great as it used to be. I can listen to my own music, especially if I know the music. But if I've had the experience where I was walking my dog and a car drove by with its bass and my knees just buckled. I just almost collapsed. And the same thing happened when somebody drove by a little while later with their muffler too loud. I just collapsed. So there's just a lot of despair. It's just like not even, I traded one thing for the other. I still have some sensitivity, but now I traded it for something else. So that's just disturbing. So those are the two main things. I was afraid to leave my home. I was very paranoid for a while. It was very distressing, and now it's better. I'm tolerating some of the side effects better. So I did contact them. I told them, I said, this is a side effect. I don't understand. And my dog went crazy, by the way. She went crazy. The crazier I got, the crazier she got too. So she's very attuned to me. And they did tell me that maybe I needed to do it again with a therapist this time. After I've had a rest, They did make a consult with a psychiatrist for me to talk to, but hasn't gotten back to me. Been a while. So who knows where that's went to. And then I started looking into it. I noticed that they had a group of researchers, so-called, people who developed this protocol. And Stephen Porges was at the top of the list. And then there was a research scientist who I knew from the Kinsey Institute. And I actually contacted him and I said, you were in on this. How do you undo these kinds of bad side effects? And it was odd because his name is on there. His face is on there on the course saying he was part of it. And he said, didn't have anything to do with it. I thought, well, if you didn't have anything to do with it, who did? They're not saying. And then there was just a lot of like social workers and therapists and occupational therapists and no scientists except for Stephen Porges, nothing. And I looked at research that they offered. This is our research. They weren't research. They were just books that people had written about, how it worked for them. There is some research going on, but nothing in trauma that I could see. There's research for kids with different kinds of disorders, but nothing for trauma. And so it was very distressing. And I still feel like they just didn't plan this out right. So after I had gone through this, I had some physiological effects with my GI tract, which got really, really bad at one point. And then it got way, way too fast. So I got dehydrated and I'm pretty sure my potassium was low. But then by the time it was over with, it drifted back up to now. It's just as bad as it ever was. So it was temporary. I also measured things like my sleep and heart rate variability and all sorts of parameters of wellness and resiliency. And those they took a hit during the program, but I didn't have this massive recovery. It just kind of went back to baseline and there was really no change. So in the end, I ended up buying these, which are really nice noise canceling headphones. Because I need noise canceling headphones sometimes because the noise is just too much. I have to do something to cancel it out and tough it out. And then I take these Epsom salts baths where I can listen to music in a kind of a sound surround situation with soft music and just floating and ways to comfort myself that I didn't used to have to do. So anyway, this is my take on it. It's very, very powerful in the hands of a therapist who's well trained and who understands trauma and the responses of this program by trauma survivors is probably very valuable. But I don't think they've looked into it enough. They never said, "Oh, you might have bad side effects." There's no disclaimers. There's nothing there that says, "Okay, well." And there's nothing that says if you're a therapist and you do this yourself, you're going to have bad side effects. So yeah, there were bad side effects. Yeah, it was very difficult, and it remains difficult. So my recommendation would be, if you do this, do it with a trained therapist. Do this with someone who understands the program well. And be prepared that it's going to be very hard. Be prepared for a lot of change. And I don't know, be prepared that it might not go the way you expect it to go. So that's my review. I will keep you updated if I find anything that makes me think that it's better than right now. I feel guarded about the whole thing. Because I just had side effects that I didn't really expect. So that's my take on it. Thanks.